I'm I'm really not too sure about this new format, guys.
Don't worry about it. It'll be great.
Yeah, it's not like anyone watches this show anyway, right?
But I'm watching it right now. It's pretty dope.
Hold up. Aren't you shooting at 5 o'clock?
Huh. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that.
Not dope.
Okay, hold on. It's been like 15 minutes and it's 4:35. We need to focus here.
Oh god. You guys have to help me think of something to talk about before we shoot.
Okay, let's not panic. I thought we came here to chill. Not act all paranoid.
Shut up, okay? Let's just calm down and brainstorm. Quick. Okay, Jen, what is one thing you know a lot about and feel very passionate about?
I don't know, I like to watch Grey's Anatomy a lot.
That's also dope.
Oh my god, right? I freaking died when Derek and Meredith were about to.
Okay, we have 25 minutes before it's 5 o'clock. So let's just chill out and relax.
Okay, we really need to get thinking. Nobody has thought of anything in the past 2 minutes?
I'm lost. I really don't know what to do.
Okay, how about talking about something you do in your free time?
I know what I'm gonna talk about.
Welcome to the newest, dopest season of Late Night Long Beach. I'm your host, Jenn Lucas, and I'm extremely excited to be rejoining you as we dive headfirst into serious topics that affect students and citizens around the world. Before we start the episode, I want to first talk about our sponsor, the Dope Meter. Because we are sponsored by the Dope Meter, we are obliged to make multiple weed puns to fill up the meter and hope to have a reefer madness party. With that being said, we're gonna kick it off on a high note.
Reefer madness.
We're kicking it off on a high note by discussing medical and recreational marijuana. What's the difference, you might ask? Essentially, one makes you feel good, the other makes you feel good. Either way, not all types of marijuana are equal, nor are all regulations. Currently, federal and state regulations offer two different stands on the controversy. At the federal level, marijuana, or as like the feds like to call it, marijuana, is classified as a Schedule I narcotic. This means that it has no medical use and has a high potential for abuse. Other noteworthy Schedule I drugs include heroin, peyote, LSD, and ecstasy. But please note, cocaine is listed as Schedule II, as is meth. While Schedule II drugs also have a high potential for abuse and dependence, just like Schedule I drugs, the government classifies Schedule II drugs as having an accepted medical use. That's right, the government actually deems Mary Jane to be more dangerous than Hard Rock and Ice. That's like saying Joffrey and Ramsay Bolton aren't as deadly as your old roommate Steve. This is where the state and federal government disagree. As we are reporting this, 25 out of 50 states allow for the medicinal use of marijuana, and 4 states allow recreational marijuana. And that's just the beginning. Many states have placed both recreational and medicinal marijuana initiatives on their ballot for the 2016 election. You could say state policy is sprouting like weed. In fact, our very own state of California has an initiative on the ballot this year seeking to legalize marijuana for recreational use. Yes, Prop 64 hopes to legalize weed in the state, mainly to generate revenue off of sales and taxes. However, there is an abundance of reasons why the legalization of recreational marijuana has become a viable option. Most importantly, there is a budding profit.
Reefer madness.
To be made in the industry that cannot be ignored. Citizens in California are definitely not ignoring the profit potential. A recent poll conducted at UC Berkeley found that voters supported Prop 64 with a 2-to-1 ratio. 60% of students intend to vote yes on the proposition, whereas 30% intend to vote no, with a 10% indifferent vote. But before we jump to conclusions, it's important to realize that full-fledged legalization of marijuana won't result in sunshine and rainbows, or in this case, hotboxing and munchies. That is not fun. And with that in mind, knowing that the legalization of recreational marijuana is a very probable outcome, one can't help but wonder, how in the world am I, a fill-in-the-blank student, U.S. citizen, etc., going to be affected? Currently, marijuana stands as the popular drug of choice amongst teens and young adults. In fact, according to a study conducted in 2014 by the University of Michigan, 38% of college students stated that they had used marijuana at least once in the last year. In 2006, that number was 30%. The percentage of students using marijuana one or more times a month rose from 17 to 21% within the span of 8 years. The bright side is that the increase in marijuana usage among this age group has led to a decrease in the usage of other substances. Specifically, there has been a decrease in the consumption of dangerous amphetamines and prescription narcotics on campuses. In his study, Lloyd Johnston concluded that it appears that college students at least are hearing and heeding the warnings about the very considerable dangers of using narcotic drugs. Just because marijuana is considered the popular drug of choice amongst college students today does not imply a promotion of overindulgence, such as the case for Aiden, a college student who talked to NBC saying that they just hope they start drinking less and they start to smoke more. A group of stoned kids is a lot less dangerous than a group of drunk ones. This leads us into our obvious but obligatory reminder that driving under the influence includes driving while stoned and driving drunk. Both are dangerous. Another student, McKenna, would agree. I think pot being legalized makes people think it is safer because the government allows its use, but that doesn't mean you should smoke every day and become a lazy stoner who eats pizza 24/7. Excuse me, McKenna, I actually prefer tacos, but wait, tacos can't be delivered, and I'm way too lazy to get up. Damn it, I guess pizza is the winner. Well put, McKenna, well put. Now, there's a difference between marijuana intended for recreation and marijuana prescribed to medical patients. There are different compounds and cannabinoids that are secreted from the marijuana flower, which provide a variety of reliefs from pain. Two major cannabinoids are THC and CBD. Now, CBD is an anti-inflammatory, antipsychotic compound helpful for patients who suffer from pain, nausea, anxiety, and many other ailments. Therefore, it's highly recommended that medical patients consume strains of marijuana high in CBDs to reduce pain and inflammation. THC, however, interacts with the brain's receptors in drastically different ways. For one, it is the psychoactive ingredient that is infamous for getting someone stoned. THC also promotes drowsiness, combats nausea, and triggers appetite. So remember this, people. Now you know what to say when you go get a rec card. When used medicinally, marijuana has been shown to help clinical conditions including epilepsy, glaucoma, nausea, chronic pain, and inflammation. When taken recreationally, some of the short-term effects of marijuana usage include impaired memory and motor skills, altered judgment, and paranoia if taken in high doses. Some of the long-term effects may include addiction, altered brain development, increased risk of psychotic disorders, as well as cognitive impairment. Even when these health factors are taken into account, passionate individuals aren't deterred from pursuing the high road. Definitely not getting old. Take, for example, San Francisco resident Jim McAlpine, who plans on opening a weed gym. Yes, that's right. Members of his gym will be able to toke it up before engaging in a workout. He's even teaming up with former NFL player Ricky Williams to offer various classes such as yoga. Finally, You will learn the art of how to strike a warrior's pose while balancing a bag of Doritos on your head. In Colorado, cannabis-infused beer was just approved for sale. Unfortunately, it won't get you high, just drunk. While the beer itself is quite bitter, it contains CBDs and is intended to provide antioxidants and neuroprotectants for the consumer. You can drink assured knowing your beer is providing health benefits. Their slogan goes along the lines of, have you ever wanted to try bong water? Well, it doesn't taste much different than vitamin water. Florida's self-proclaimed first professor of cannabis, Jeremy Bufford, has opened a building in Tampa, Florida, where just for $499, you can take his 5-month-long course on everything marijuana. Through the course, Bufford intends to approach cannabis from a historical, legal, botanical, and pharmacological perspective. Along with his lecture, Bufford provides workspaces where you learn to grow your own plants. Bufford hopes that once the election rolls around, marijuana will be legalized for recreational use so that he may expand and create dispensaries and legal growing locations. I mean, you're probably already wasting your parents' money, so why not drop 5 bills and go all the way, am I right? Even the tech giant Microsoft is looking to get in on the stemming business and profit potential.
Reefer madness.
USA Today reports that Microsoft is teaming up with LA-based startup company Kinds Financial, which has been working to implement seed-to-sale software and programming. Not only will this ensure trustworthy marijuana, but it will also help in government regulation. The potential is huge, and Microsoft is just one of many hoping to hop on the profit train. I guess in the future you'll have to get Windows if you want to get high. Now that we've heard some stories of entrepreneurial success, why don't we take it to our guest? Steve is a self-proclaimed ganjapreneur of the local marijuana community and sees a thing or two in the potential of the legalization of medical marijuana. Hello, Steve. Nice. Ooh, I love it. Thank you so much for coming out and seeing us today.
I prefer Mr. Steve, just starting off.
Oh, yes, of course, of
It's
course.
Jen, right?
It's Jen, yeah. Mr. Steve, walk me through a day in the life of a ganjapreneur. What do you do in the daily life of a ganjapreneur?
Okay, wake up, smoke. Take a shower, smoke. Wake up, smoke.
So
Go
wait,
to
did you fall
school.
asleep in the shower? You just said,
Go to school, smoke.
wow.
Learn about weed, smoke. Go back, smoke.
Steve, I have a question.
Go to sleep, smoke.
I don't know if this is personal or not, but do you ever maybe possibly consider that you're a little bit too indulgent in your lifestyle?
Can you repeat the question?
Do you ever think you're a little too, do you know what indulgent means? Steve, how high are you right now?
Pretty high.
I just want to personally thank you so much for coming out here today and enlightening us with your wisdom. Wisdom. Oh, I almost had it. It was pretty good, right?
Fine.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your goat.
Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure. I think I double parked.
Wait, did you drive here? Did you drive here?
No.
Can someone get him an Uber? All right, well, thanks for dropping by and talking with us, Steve. And before we head into our next segment, we're going to take a minute for a message from one of our other sponsors.
Hi, I'm Big Herb, owner and operator of Big Herb's Weed Warehouse and Emporium. And because of new California state laws, I can grow my own weed and sell it to you, meaning I'm passing the savings on to you. We have everything you need to get you as high as a kite and as stoned as Shaggy on a regular Scooby-Doo episode. We have pipes, bongs, rigs, hemp wick, lighters, wraps, swishers, backwoods, wax, vaporizers, vaporizer pens, blunt splitters, and weed. Don't like to smoke? Then try our edibles. Now in ice cream. So come on down to Big Herb's Weed Warehouse and Emporium, right off the 405 and the 22.
for our onboard monologue, and before you start going out and enjoying your state legal drug, there is one huge catch. The primary controversy on marijuana is not if it has medical properties at all. It's the legal status of the plant itself. Although states have changed their policies regarding marijuana in the last 20 years for their citizens to smoke either recreationally or medically, the federal government hasn't changed their official stance with the drug at all. It's like arguing with your grandpa saying, Fox News isn't biased. When it comes to which laws take precedent under the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution, the federal government would win the case. However, the federal government has taken multiple measures to acknowledge the medical uses of marijuana, including its 2015 spending bill proposition, which would prohibit federal agencies to go after state law-abiding marijuana dispensers. But for state college students, this is a different story. Universities in states that not only have legalized marijuana for medical use, but also recreational use, ban smoking on campus. Let's take the story of Andre Maestas, for example. Andre was a student at Arizona State University in 2014, and although he was a medical marijuana card holder, he was charged with a felony for having 0.6 grams of weed in his campus dorm. Although Arizona has been a medical marijuana state since 2010, they passed a 2012 statute banning medical marijuana on campus. Arizona is not the only state to have this condition. Actually, all state campuses have banned the use of marijuana on campuses, regardless if it is legal for medical or recreational purposes. So for universities, a medical card is a lot like a bachelor's degree in the arts. Useless. If you think about it, any degree in the arts is like that. Let's take 25-year-old Robin Smith from University of Maine, for example. Robin is a military veteran who has spent over a year in Afghanistan, where his experience left him diagnosed with anxiety, severe migraines, and a joint disorder. Now, although Robin is able to medicate a variety of different painkillers and other drugs that negatively affect how he feels on campus, he is not allowed to smoke marijuana on campus. Instead, he has to travel to his car outside campus to smoke. Robin only has to take a small dosage of marijuana to make him feel better than his prescribed painkillers. He even goes as far to say that he prefers marijuana as he is afraid he'll become dependent on the pharmaceuticals. The university's administrators don't necessarily see anything ethically wrong with smoking marijuana. However, they simply can't afford to disobey the Drug-Free Schools and Committees Act. The bill itself was placed primarily to inhibit students from partaking in illegal drug use on campus, which includes providing funding for anti-drug programs like, you guessed it, marijuana. However, the bill also includes funding for programs for alcohol abuse. This is a double standard, where there are countless amounts of universities that have university bars and clubs that sell alcohol. Just last year, VinePair.com released a nationwide map that indicates all the universities that promote the consumption of beer during football season. For God's sake, we film our show at an on-campus pub. Now, we're not saying to shut down alcohol usage on college campuses. That's virtually impossible as students reach young adulthood. However, do not make it a double standard for a drug that has shown not only equal but less deteriorating effects than alcohol. Bringing it back to the Drug-Free Schools and Committees Act, along with the University of Maine, many, if not all state universities rely on the federal government to fund their campuses, and as such, they directly comply with black and white federal laws, taking into account the Controlled Substances Act among them. Which, in all honesty, if we were to accept these rules, makes sense. If a school is taking funds from the federal government, they should follow its direct rules. It's not as if the marijuana industry is a major contributor to federal taxes. I mean, if marijuana is as dangerous as it sounds, being labeled as dangerous as cocaine and meth, the industry has to be highly selective when it comes to selling and distributing marijuana, right?
If you look at the projected tax revenues in Washington State and in Colorado and also nationally, Colorado 67 million, Washington 560 million, a hypothetical look more nationally $5.8 billion. What do you make of that?
If you see numbers like that, wouldn't you expect universities to run Stalin-level propaganda pushing students to smoke? Now, there are many other injustices when it comes to the legalization of marijuana between federal and state government, such as the high taxation of marijuana because it is considered a highly illegal drug. According to Section 280E of the United States Tax Code, businesses that transfer substances that are deemed illegal by the federal law, such as marijuana, are banned from using tax deductions that are offered by other businesses. So owners of marijuana businesses face steep tax rates as high as 70%, as opposed to the majority of other businesses that have tax rates of approximately 40%. I don't know about you, but I would be royally PO'd if I spent almost twice as much for regulation taxes than the Smith & Wesson store down the street. That's not all, though. About 97% of the banks in the United States refuse to take any business accounts that deal with marijuana. Why? You guessed it, because it's federally illegal for banks and credit unions to handle funds involved with marijuana. This leaves banks avoiding the booming market of the marijuana industry. Even the 3% of banks that do business with marijuana dispensaries do it on a limited scope. These banks only provide extremely basic banking services such as checking accounts, and because of that, dispensaries handle all of their transactions by cash, which leaves many dispensaries open to robbery. Maybe marijuana dispensaries should have a gun shop near them at all times. Better yet, maybe there should be a joint partnership like Taco Bell and KFC. I can see it now. Guns and weed. The one-stop shop for all your gun and weed needs. This leads us into one of the bigger arguments against fully legalizing marijuana. Many people believe that if marijuana is to be legalized at their state or national level, it would inflate organized crime in the state. The president of the California Police Chief Association, Ken Corney, goes on to point out the rise of marijuana drug crimes in Colorado has increased since the legalization of marijuana. This is primarily due to individuals cultivating and transferring weed from Colorado to states that deem weed illegal surrounding the state. Makes sense. I mean, why would a drug cartel spend hundreds of dollars transporting marijuana over country borders when it can grow inside the state and transport it for less money? But rather than putting faults in the state policy that would have a black market on the marijuana either way, why not legalize it nationally so that people around the country can get it at a regulated dispensary? Another reason why officials think the legalization of marijuana would not prevent a black market is that because the drug is taxed, black market marijuana would seem more appealing because it's cheaper. However, according to a local Colorado radio station, the difference between dispensary marijuana and black market marijuana is only $5. Now, as sensible human beings, what seems more convenient? Getting your drugs from Shady Dan in the park at 2 a.m. or going to a dispensary and getting your drugs from someone who's as friendly as a doped out In-N-Out worker? And that's super nice. Corney then argues that marijuana should simply be illegal as the federal government intends it to be, so it can be harder for younger, more easily influenced individuals to get their hands on it. He then compares pot to alcohol, saying that if alcohol were more difficult to attain in communities, we would have less alcohol problems. My only response to that is, we already tried that. About 100 years ago, when alcohol prohibition was a thing in this country, it didn't go so well. Resulted in one of the biggest rise to organized crime movement in the country, but that wouldn't happen again, right? Two other prominent arguments against the legalization of marijuana is, how is the introduction of a once legal drug, now commercialized, affect America's youth, and how can police officers detect a driver who's under the influence of marijuana? For the first argument, many of the bills, including Prop 64 in California, would have a portion of the tax funds from cannabis designated to drug prevention programs. Arizona's legalization bill, Prop 205, would give excess tax revenue to fund school construction, kindergarten programs, and public education in regards to the dangers of marijuana and other harmful substances. In the 2 years marijuana was legalized in Colorado, the excess tax revenue reached about $27 million in funds that went to school construction and an anti-bullying campaign for the state. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see my non-existent kids attend Cush Elementary School with its anti-bullying mascot, Blunts the Giant Joint. Although this won't stop young people from getting their hands on marijuana, just like how kids can get their hands on alcohol and tobacco, educating them on the dangerous effects of the drug would have the same effect as the previous drugs. Now, when it comes to the second argument, many are afraid that there wouldn't be a way to detect drivers under the influence of marijuana. Unlike alcohol, which spreads throughout your bloodstream, making it easy to tell how much is affecting your brain, the THC in marijuana is fat soluble, which means that even if you're high, the THC won't necessarily be in your bloodstream. According to the head of chemistry and drug metabolism department at the National Institute of Drug Abuse, a person could be intoxicated hours after smoking, yet still pass a drug test for driving. It's even worse if you're a daily user, because if you indulge yourself every day, the THC begins to build up in your body fat. So even if you're driving sober, you will have a moderate level of THC in your bloodstream, labeling you as intoxicated. But let's be honest, I mean, to detect if someone's high, all the police officers have to do is ask if they want a burger from Burger King, because that is the only state of mind that Burger King sounds edible. In all seriousness, however, just like the educational clause, many of the propositions that aim to legalize marijuana also intend to use tax revenue to fund under-influenced drivers. California's Proposition 64 is intended to give $3 million annually to the Highway Patrol to create protocols for individuals under the influence. Bringing it back to college students, let's remember Andre, who was charged with a felony for possessing marijuana. Andre was lucky enough to get his marijuana holding charges down to a misdemeanor. However, some students aren't so lucky. According to financial aid services for students, if you are caught in possession of anything that is described as an illegal drug, you are suspended from getting aid for a minimum of 1 year, and many students rely on that aid to get through college. Now, although you probably won't be getting federal agents breaking into your dorm room because you wanted to listen to Dark Side of the Moon on repeat for 6 hours, it's still a major concern that you can be stripped of your financial aid, as well as being labeled a convict, all because of a mislabeled drug policy. Although recently the federal government has made multiple exemptions to this rule, the very simple solution to this issue would be for the federal government to reclassify cannabis in the Controlled Substances Act. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration actually was petitioned by citizens to reclassify the drug. In a response letter, the DEA administrator, Chuck Rosenberg, went on to say that there simply wasn't enough evidence to reclassify marijuana. However, this argument is getting continuously insignificant as more and more tests prove both the positive and negative effects of marijuana and how they stack up to comparable legal drugs such as alcohol and tobacco. This brings us to our call to action. Although we don't have direct say to change this law, a very significant way to change it is by voting in your upcoming state election. As we stated before, California has its own bill, Prop 64, but 4 other states have recreational legalization propositions on their ballot, along with another 4 states having medical legalization propositions. Most of these propositions also contribute to additional evidence of marijuana's effects by having a research clause embedded in the proposition. You might have your own disagreements when it comes to marijuana, but hopefully now you will go into the voting ballot with a higher sense of education. Be sure to check out your local ballot for marijuana legislation. But for now, we'll see you next time on Late Night Long Beach.